Well, we kick off this morning, and the focus is on the talks between President Cyril Ramaphosa and Donald Trump. We are also led to believe that President Ramaphosa had talks with Vladimir Putin as well. And this comes against the background of the 30% hikes that have already hit South Africa. Lecturer at Wits Business School focusing on international law, global geopolitics, and international cooperation and multilateralism, Patrick Lukusa Kadima. Patrick, good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Thank you, and good morning to your viewers and listeners.
Yes, interesting developments. We've had the 30% tariff hikes that have hit the country. Talks still continue between President Cyril Ramaphosa and Donald Trump. They had some talks over the telephone on Wednesday. And just your reading into developments that are starting to play out, Patrick.
Sorry, I never heard that part.
I said just your reading into what is playing out at this point in time with these talks between President Cyril Ramaphosa and Donald Trump, and this comes against the background of these 30% tariff hikes.
So yes, we all know about the tariffs that have kicked in not only for South Africa but for other countries, some who are traditional allies of America, and therefore we even saw the statement from the presidency, as you mentioned, that states that there was a meeting. There was a telephonic meeting between President Ramaphosa and President Trump to try discuss the issues of tariffs. And I think these are part of the ongoing negotiations between South Africa and the United States of America to find a lasting solution to the issue of tariffs. Um, I don't know if in the next coming few weeks or months we will see a revision of the tariffs for South Africa after this telephonic meeting. But we all know these are negotiations. We don't need to rush them. They will take time, and we'll have to wait for the outcome.
Well, we certainly will, but what we've seen with Donald Trump, very unpredictable in the since the time he's taken office, and particularly with regard to tariffs, how he's actually managed this entire tariff debacle or debate that is taking place, and not only with South Africa, but right across the entire world, introducing tariffs, then backing down. And just in the case of South Africa, we've seen what had happened when President Cyril Ramaphosa had visited the White House. It was, there again, we saw a completely different picture playing out. Just, trying to make sense of all of this, really, in this climate of Trump being so unpredictable. I mean, where does this actually leave South Africa? How does this actually place President Cyril Ramaphosa in the greater scheme of things in terms of our relationship with the United States?
Yeah, so our relationship with the United States has not been one that has been easy, and it's not only South Africa that suffers from this type of relationship with the United States of America and the current Republican administration. Like I also mentioned earlier, we know even the Australian Prime Minister has been trying to get hold of Trump to no avail, and so on and so forth. It has been a difficult task for him to try set a second meeting with Trump. So it places South Africa in a very difficult position. The US is a large trading partner of South Africa. We cannot deny that. And I'm always against those people that say, no, then let's look immediately for alternative markets. And you cannot just do that. This is trade, and despite the difficulties, you try to iron out the difficulties, try and negotiate, and so on and so forth. But the relationship between South Africa and the United States of America currently is not one that is favorable, and that it is true that with this places the president in a very difficult position, because now he has to steer the country's trading policy, or and try to establish foreign try to establish new markets, because he is the head he is the chief diplomat of the country, and therefore, yes, while he has ministers, it's also his responsibility to overlook or oversee which other new markets that South Africa can enter into. And I just think that, it's not the fault, it's not South Africa's fault, it's not whatever position South Africa has taken in the international stage over the past few months. This is a sovereign country. It has the right to position itself on international matters anyhow it sees fit, because it has elected leaders. It has a government that has been in place democratically, and therefore it has the right to choose where it stands on international matters.
Yes. Now, Patrick, also, I think the mere fact that South Africa has been trying for months to negotiate a trade deal with the United States of America, and this was also ahead of the deadline for the tariffs of 30%. And the fact that there's been very little or no progress on negotiating these trade deals, where does the problem lie in your view and in your assessment? How much more can South Africa do? Have we done enough?
No, for me, you have done enough. It's not, South Africa has done enough. It has tried enough, and yes, there may be one exception where I disagree. Is it's on the issue that the president must appoint an ambassador very quickly. These are the roles and the tasks that ambassadors should take. But again, you appoint an ambassador, and the American government is not happy with the person you have appointed, or the envoy you have appointed. But it is, and I did see that the Minister of International Relations did say that the president will soon appoint an ambassador. That was, I think, 2 days back, because that is something that I've been advocating, that you need some certain things need to be in place, and that is that of an ambassador in Washington. But the problem doesn't lie with the South African side. The problem lies with the American side. Just 2 days back, I was telling a friend that look at the Swiss president flying out of Switzerland after a cabinet crisis meeting on the tariffs, flying out to Washington trying to go salvage a deal before the tariffs kick in. But the president and her delegation, I think of 8 people, including that was the president of the Federal Council, and her delegation, including the economics minister, arrive in Washington, and they are now forced to speak to Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. I mean, how disrespectful can that be? That as a as the president of the Federal Council, you are meant to meet Marco Rubio. When you are going there to try to salvage a deal. So it is not the problem. It is not a problem of the South African side. I mean, I also highlighted the Australian Prime Minister suffering and trying to get Trump to a meeting. Same goes to for other traditional allies such as India, and so on and so forth. They are all shocked. So it is not the problem here. The problem is the other side in Washington, and it's unfortunate that it has happened. But it also highlights, and this is important. We talk about all these issues of where the problem lies. Are we doing enough? The problem lies also here in Africa, where African countries have failed time and time and again to establish and implement successfully the African Continental Free Trade Area as a solution for themselves. But look at the numbers. Look at the numbers, and it will tell you a lot of things when you look at the numbers about South Africa's trading partners. Besides China and America, we have Mozambique, an unlikely top trading partner of South Africa that people are shocked about. But now, if you implement that and say, if we trade amongst each other, if we successfully implement the African Continental Free Trade Area, you'll see those numbers change. You will see more African countries coming in as top trading partners of South Africa. But as long as we don't have that, then I'm telling you that we will continue to, we will not have any place where we can cushion ourselves when these tariffs come in, because the world is changing. You don't know who comes in next in power.
Absolutely. I think you're raising a very, very critical point here as far as Africa and looking after African interests against the background of leaders like Donald Trump. And as you correctly pointed out as well, we don't know what is actually going to come next. And that includes not only the United States of America, but it also includes the rest of Western Europe. So it does put the African continent in somewhat of a dilemma. And like Donald Trump always talks about, putting America first, make America great again. Africans should be starting to think along, put Africa first.
Very true. Very true. And I do agree with you. I do agree with you in the sense that if you are a rich country, such as a rich continent such as Africa, with all the minerals that you have, we have the skills in the continent, but there is the lack of political will to try implement this regional integration in terms of trade. And if you have established a secretariat for the African Continental Free Trade Area, you have it. It's working. There are offices for that. Then what's the difficulty? What's the difficulty? What's the hesitation for African countries to meet? But and again, I've reiterated that this, there are a lot of factors that hamper this free trade area, to be honest. But one of them is also the suspicion that African countries have amongst themselves to say that if goods from Southern Africa flood the markets in West Africa, then you have countries that will be that will feel that their goods and services in West Africa will be diluted and so on and so forth. This needs to stop, because there is no sense in that. If there was at all sense in that, then the European Union will not have had their free trade area amongst themselves. So these are unscientific based evidence that political leaders may have. And we need to really, for example, look at SADC. Just look at SADC, the Southern African Development Community. You are the richest regional economic community in Africa, but that does not translate in terms of GDP. But that does not translate to proper free trade relationships among SADC countries. Why is that? Because there is no political will. So if there is no political will in a 15 member state region, how do we expect to have a free trade area in about 54 countries in Africa? So there needs to be political will. That's the only thing that's stopping, one of the major factors that's stopping this intra-African trade to happen.
Patrick, I'm going to put you on hold. I need to take an ad break. We'll be back in a minute or two.
This is Salam Media.
It's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying, or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, yet many children go to school hungry because of poverty. Penny Appeal South Africa's Breakfast Club aims to get a warm, hearty meal to underprivileged children so they can spend their day prospering in their schoolwork. Help feed a needy learner for only 5 Rand a day, or 150 Rand a month. Or visit our website www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573 to find out how you can donate. Penny Appeal South Africa. Small change, big difference.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Gaza needs your support more than ever. Homes have been shattered and families have lost everything. With your support, our teams are delivering clean water tankers, feeding the hungry, and assisting orphans who have no one left. Let us give Gaza whatever help we can. African Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
Breaking stereotypes, moving boundaries, joining hands. Salam Media. Humanity sets the agenda.
Well, we continue our discussion this morning, taking a look at the talks between President Cyril Ramaphosa and Donald Trump against the background of the 30% tariff hikes with my guest, Patrick Kadima. Patrick, just to continue, and when one looks at what is playing out globally, it is about forming strategic partnerships. It is about strategic relationships that one has with many players, global players. And I also want to focus a bit on the whole question surrounding Russia and China as well. And your reading into this, particularly looking at the United States of America holding a gun to the head of South Africa. And we've heard just of the talks between President Cyril Ramaphosa and Putin as well, talking about South Africa's role as far as Ukraine and Russia is concerned as well. You know, where would this place President Cyril Ramaphosa in the event of some sort of peace initiative that South Africa is embarking upon aimed at resolving the Ukraine Russian crisis? And how will that go down with the United States of America?
I don't know what the United States of America is thinking about, but I do remember, I think it was when the president was visiting the United States of America, where Trump said, Zelensky, I was told Zelensky was in South Africa. Is that true? I asked myself, what is he doing in South Africa? So, but South Africa has been, one of those African countries that has played a role in establishing peace on the continent and also abroad. And it is history dictates, and history is littered with a lot of examples of how South Africa has tried to mediate conflicts across the world. So with this Russia-Ukraine issue, it is not a surprise. Remember that you will recall that President Ramaphosa had taken at least, I don't know, 5 African presidents to go to Russia and Ukraine and try to mediate the conflict, which unfortunately I think stalled because we have not even had the follow-up from that. We're told the follow-up, but we haven't had anything from that African peace initiative. So it is no surprise that President Putin had a conversation with President Ramaphosa, because he was the one that was leading this initiative. South Africa has countless times said that they are trying to establish peace between the two countries. So I don't know how Washington will receive that, but there are a lot of mediators trying to mediate this conflict. You will recall there is China as well. There is also the United Arab Emirates as well. There's also Saudi Arabia. There's also the United States of America. So there are a lot of mediators trying to find a solution to this conflict. And I don't know how Washington will view South Africa's role in trying to mediate this conflict.
Well, I think I know how Washington will view it. At the end of the day, even if South Africa succeeds, it is one person that will want to take credit for negotiating this peace deal. And we know it's Donald Trump, because, when the White House openly and shamelessly calls for Donald Trump to be nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, that alone speaks volumes, Patrick.
It does. It does. I mean, he has said that a lot of times. I think also that he has tried to establish peace in several countries and so on and so forth. I don't think it is true to that effect. and I don't think he's going to win the Nobel Peace Prize. So I am of the belief the only conflict I think that the United States of America has tried to find lasting solution to has been the one where they've played a role in the in the Russian and Ukraine one, also the one in the Democratic Republic of Congo between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. That's why we actually saw the signing of peace accords and everything. And in the near future, apparently, the two heads of states of these two particular African countries will travel to Washington to finally sign off this peace agreement. So, as to whether it will hold or not, I don't know. But it has been a peace agreement that has come under scrutiny because the Democratic Republic of Congo will have to give its critical minerals to the United States of America in exchange for peace and so on and so peace and security. So it's something we'll have to look. Very interesting times.
Well, these are interesting times, but also I think just putting your crystal ball on, Patrick, and taking a long shot as to where this will ultimately end, because in this era of uncertainty, in this era of having leaders that are loose cannons or unpredictable, like Donald Trump, where is this world heading? Where is Africa actually heading? And this uncertainty obviously is not doing anybody any good. But again, it is left, as you pointed out earlier as well, where countries and leaders on the African continent, particularly with the focus on Africa, need to take destiny in their own hands. And they need to obviously chart the direction that they want to see Africa go.
Yeah, very true. I always say that I think the international rules-based order is now stretched to the limit, given the various factors of how the world is heading. Trump is not going to be the first and the last to shake the world in this way. We will see a lot of changes happening due to local changes happening, domestic changes happening in certain countries, and we will have different leaders that will, emerge and see the world in a different space. So with that, it's a call now, to everyone and to leaders that believe in a multilateral world to come together and try to salvage what is left, because if this continues, then the world will spiral into a lot of chaos, For example, the United States of America has now withdrawn or is in the process of withdrawing its funds for the United Nations. This places the United Nations, for example, in a very difficult place because the United Nations won't be able to carry out its job. It's already in a financial crisis. The Secretary General has alerted the people, that the United Nations is in a financial crisis now. As one of the largest contributors to the United Nations, the United States is saying we are going to pause certain funding for this. Then that means that it will affect the work that the United Nations is doing. That's why, hence, we have this amalgamation of different UN agencies that is happening, called the UN 80. So you see how everywhere in the world there is now uncertainty. We don't know where we are heading to. Conflicts are spiraling, out of control, and so on and so forth. Even in regions that we thought that there might not be too much tension, such as the European Union, we see there are now tensions in there as well. So for African countries particularly, I think that it's a call up. It's time to, it's a rude awakening that there needs to be work done towards implementing a continental vision of trade, a continental vision of peace and security, because we might speak about trade, we might speak about any other thing, economic development, but if the continent is still ravaged by conflict, then that is problematic, We are a wealthy continent, despite having a lot of inequalities and poverty as a result of, not only our past, but also our current leaders that have practiced maladministration and kleptocracy and so on and so forth, and nepotism. But if all these issues are ironed out, if there is if there is a political will that we must start now moving the continent together forward, then I think there is a lot for us to gain. I was just reading, I think a few days back, somebody posted on social media saying, why is it that the Southern African region does not use a monetary currency, a monetary union? That means 15 countries in SADC implementing one monetary currency, either using the rand or using any currency that will be built. And the answer is very simple. The answer to this region, Southern Africa's region's development, is not a monetary union. A monetary union will be very good. It will be a positive movement, but that's not the answer. The answer is, do you have the countries that will have, if you have one central bank, one regional central bank, do you have countries that will respect the institutions' independence? You don't. You don't. And you see that in the respective countries around the Southern African, that some of them don't respect the independence of the central bank. So you need stronger institutions that will be able to pass independent decisions for the greater good of the region, and have credibility. Otherwise, then you'll have problems.
Well, Patrick, we're going to have to leave it at that. There's just so much that to digest. There's just so much to think about in terms of what you've said. And, I was hoping that, obviously there's a lot more I know that we can actually unpack from here when we're talking about currencies and all of that. But we're going to have to leave that for another day. But for now, we thank you. We do appreciate you taking time out with us on Salam Media.
Okay, thank you. And thank you to your viewers and listeners.
Patrick Kadima was us this morning, and with that, we're going to go for a break. We come back, we will be looking at the condemnation on the massacres by Rwanda and this against the DRC ceasefire. We'll be joined by Jafar Al Katanti, who is a Goma based journalist.